Hello and welcome to Diecast Restos. My name is Jason and this week I am going to be restoring this Matchbox Dodge crane truck. This one was one of many sent over to me by Tony Hughes, a long-time supporter and channel member. It's not in the worst condition, it's just missing its crane hook and the rear mudguard is a little bent, nothing major. The model is based on the Dodge 500, later known as the K series. These trucks were built in the UK by Q Dodge. Here's a fresher example of the casting, and here's the real truck. Dodge began operations in the UK back in 1922. They had set up in London reconstructing completely knocked down chassis imported from the US. Dodge were purchased by Chrysler in 1928. They had their own UK plant building Plymouth cars based at Q in London. As Dodge operations were growing, it was decided to move Dodge in with Plymouth in Q. Gradually, more and more British-built components were used, including Perkins engines, leading to the vehicles becoming known as Q Dodges. After the factory had been turned over for aircraft component production during the Second World War, peacetime operations restarted at Q in 1949. With the increasing use of locally sourced components, Q Dodges began looking closer to their competition from Leyland and Ford Thames. In 1964, the heavy-duty 500 was introduced, replacing the 300 series. The tilt cab was styled by Ghia and was provided to customers in primer who then painted them. Cabs were praised for their styling, spaciousness, comfort, road visibility, and engine placement for minimal intrusion. Payload capacities ranged from 10 tonnes for 2-axle units up to 15 tonnes for 3-axle units. Buyers could choose from a 130 horsepower V6 or 170 horsepower V8 from Cummins, or a locally made 120 horsepower Perkins diesel engine. In 1967, Chrysler purchased the Roots Group, whose commercial vehicle operations included Commer and Carrier. Production was moved from Q to Roots' Dunstable plant, so these 500s were less commonly known as Q Dodges. The Q works were then phased out. Moving into the 1970s, many of the former Roots Group commercial vehicles were now badged as Dodges. Chrysler offloaded the UK commercial vehicles operations to Peugeot-Talbots in 1979. The following year, the 500, which by now was known as the K series, was phased out. During its 16-year production run, the 500 had also been sold under the American DeSoto and Fargo marks. Peugeot had limited interest in larger commercial vehicles following their 1979 takeover. So, the factory for heavier vehicles was run in conjunction with Renault. The transition to Renault was gradual. Many products during this era had Dodge branding, then Dodge and Renault branding, followed by Renault branding alone. By 1987, all mention of the UK arm of Dodge had disappeared from new vehicles. The last vehicle to be produced with Dodge lineage was the 50 series, which was produced by Renault up until 1993. Lesney's 63C crane truck arrived in 1968, just as real-life production was moving away from Q. These models were all painted yellow and had blue-tinted transparencies to the truck cab and crane cab. The only real variations of note were the slight differences in the shade of yellow used, and the colour of the plastic hook attached. As you'll have seen at the very beginning of the video, I opted for a yellow one rather than the contrasting red. In 1970, the model was chosen to have the new Matchbox Superfast wheels fitted. There were a couple of different wheel types available, but little else changed during its 3-year Superfast run. It was deleted in 1973, making way for the freeway gas tanker. The Dodge had replaced the Avis Salamander Fomite airport crash tender, which is one that I worked on a long while back. Neat little model that. I hope that you've enjoyed your break from me talking over the entire video. It's time now to start putting this casting back together, first with the windscreen going back into the cabin. The plastic base piece holds that up. This uses the headlights and grille and a single rivet to secure itself. It also provides the model its front axle. I can then pop that aside while I focus on the crane section, affixing the transparency onto that microscopic shallow rivet remains. Then it's just a case of combining the two parts. I use a 3mm M2 screw with a washer to hold that in place, while allowing the crane to freely rotate. Lastly, I begin my struggle trying to attach that repro crane hook. Here's a look at how the 63C Lesney Matchbox Dodge crane truck sent in to me by Tony was once looking. It hadn't fared too badly in all honesty. Aside from the usual paint chipping, it was missing its hook and one of the rear mud flaps had been bent inward a little. Although it isn't the simplest Matchbox model in its construction, it all went fairly smoothly to end up looking like this. This Tamiya camel yellow suits it very well indeed, I feel. Together with its glossy top coat, it helps it to look factory fresh again. The wheels have washed up well in Citadel gloss, and the sparkling chrome axle ends stand out. I've flattened out that once bent rear mudguard, and I've gifted the crane a new yellow reproduction hook from Steve Flowers Model Supplies. I love the contrasting blue transparencies on the cab and crane. Both have polished up perfectly, aside from a little mark to the front. Otherwise, it's nearly as good as new. Tell me what you think about this model and my restoration of it down in the comments. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video and make sure you're subscribed to stay posted about all my latest restorations and customs. So thanks for watching and I'll see you again for the next one. Bye for now.